Don't worry about being niche, because being niche means a shorter funnel. It means you're targeting people that you know need you.
Yep.
So you've got to spend some time on that.
Hi, I'm Emma Riggi, the director of MyProfessionalNet, here with this episode of MPN Expert Highlights. And today I'm very excited to be joined by Ansa Edim, and we're going to be talking a little bit about brand identity. Do you want to start off and introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you. And thank you for having me. Hello, everyone. As Emma said, my name is Ansa, and I'm a brand strategist. So my background is all things brand, helping organizations and people figure out who they want to be and how they want to tell people.
Awesome. So our subscribers are design professionals, mainly architects and engineers, and they work in small firms. So to kick us off, could you talk a little bit about the importance of building a brand identity, especially for a small business?
Yeah, so one of the things that I always like to clarify about brand is that branding is who you are and marketing is how you tell people. So a lot of people try to say, oh no, we have a marketing department, or no, people know who I am. But brand really is the essence of who you are and how you want to be remembered. So if you're a small organization and people are trying to pick you versus another organization, there are things that they might hold on to, like, well, I really like that their customer service is pretty consistent over here, or their designs are pretty unique over there. And that's what you're known for. And that becomes your brand. And your brand is people's perception of you. And it's really important that you have a hand in shaping that. Otherwise, people can make up whatever they want.
I love that, branding versus marketing. That's a really nice way to explain that. I haven't heard that before, and that's perfect. Maybe for those that might not know where to start, could you give us some examples of, some steps of building that brand identity?
Yeah, so I can boil it down to 4 easy steps, or 4 really basic steps. So you've got your brand personality as one piece of your overall brand, but then you've also got to consider your target audience. You've also got to consider your position and what your key messages are. So kind of starting with your brand personality is things like, if you were a car, what would your organization be? If you're a small business, if your firm had a celebrity spokesperson, who would the best person be to represent that organization? If you're a hotel chain, which would it be? Then my personal favorite is, if I were a superhero, what would my power be? And all of this is to say, like, you as an organization and or as a person, what is the kind of personality that people associate with you? Are you the type of person, or is your business the type of person that people go out for coffee with once a week to catch up? Or are you the type of person who is no nonsense and just like here to get business done? So consider these things when you're building your brand. Is, what is the personality that I want associated with me? Another thing is just, I've got to consider your target audience. So one of the things that I run into as a brand strategist is that when I ask people, okay, so who's your main audience? Who are you trying to attract? And they say, well, everyone, or anyone who's interested. And I have to say, well, no, if you're trying to attract everyone, then you're going to attract no one.
Right.
People should really be able to identify with you as an organization, a business, or a person if they're going to give you their hard-earned money or time, really.
Right.
Think of, some of the things I think of are, why does Dove, to sell deodorant, have commercials about body positivity and those types of things? It's because they are trying to attract people who really care about those things, and they know that their core audience cares about those things. And so in order to attract them, they talk about things that they care about.
Right.
That all starts with knowing who your audience is. So ways to kind of figure out who your audience is would be demographics. Are they largely women? Are they largely men? Does it matter? Do they live in a big city? What is their kind of age range? So if you're a B2C organization, then think about things like, what are the other products that they sell? What's most important to them? Are they trying to build buildings in big cities or countryside? What activities do they like to do? When you're thinking about your audience as a walking, talking person, like building a persona, maybe give them a name. Go as far as you like. And are you targeting a specific industry? And then if that's the case, what's important to people in that industry? If you're a B2C, then think about what are the aspirations and goals of your audiences. So your customers specifically, what are they trying to achieve? And how are you actually helping them solve that problem? Which leads us into kind of the third step that I would consider if you're thinking about building a good foundation for your brand: positioning. So your position, right, is who you are relative to other organizations in your market. So think of it as a grid, and you've got kind of the X and Y axis. On one axis, it might be kind of expensive to less expensive, and like big to small on the other. So where do you fit on this grid? Are you a big, expensive organization that can tackle all of their needs? Or are you a smaller organization that's really niche relative to your competitors? Put your competitors on that same grid. Ways to figure this out and how to communicate this, because figuring out is important, of course, but how you communicate it, it should be everywhere in everything you do. So I like to think, what problem am I solving for whom? So think of it this way. If you are an architecture firm and you're saying like most firms don't really do X, and we are the ones who are the best at X, that should be in everything you say and everything you do. You promise it and then you do it.
Right.
So you say, relative to our competitors, we're much better at this. So we're going to talk about this all the time so that people associate it with us.
Right.
And then you can say like, why should people come to us versus the other people? And you should know that, and you should say it all the time. It should be in everything. And then also how you describe your organization might be, we're kind of like X, but we're Y. So think of like a social media organization that might say, we're like a Facebook, but with more pictures. So like, how would you describe Instagram? Instagram is like a Facebook, but with more pictures. You start to think of your organization in that way. It helps people kind of do the work. The other brand has done a little bit of the work, and you're taking it a little bit further.
Right.
So I always like to say with positioning, think of if you were to introduce yourself to someone and they said, what do you do? I get business when people say, So I say, oh, hey, what do you do? I'm in Washington, D.C. This is a very common question in D.C. We get made fun of it all the time, no matter what industry you're in. The question is, what do you do?
Yeah.
And so I'll say, so what do you do? And they'll say, I kind of work in finance, or I'm an architect and I work at a firm. Without any context, I don't really know what that means.
Right.
And that is an opportunity for you to kind of sell your brand very quickly.
Yeah.
So I would much rather, if I were an architect or if I were in this industry, say, oh, I build homes for such and such types of people in this region. Or we build unique homes or corporate headquarters in major cities. A very quick, snappy, here's who I am, here's the problem that I solve for people, and here's the types of people I work with.
Right.
When people hear that, they immediately can think of, oh, I might be able to send you some business.
Right.
Or I might need your services.
Yeah.
And no matter what, that brief interaction that you've had with them, your brand is the legacy you leave behind in every interaction.
Right.
And so really focusing on your positioning and spending a good amount of time of these kind of 4 steps that I'm mentioning, 3 so far, is really going to go a long way in building a foundation and owning the narrative of your own brand.
Right.
Otherwise, if you meet someone and you say, oh, I'm an architect, and they say, okay, cool. And that's it. That's all they know about you. And they kind of move on with their lives, and you have no lasting impact. Or maybe you say you're an architect and you're at a holiday party and you're having a ton of fun, and they only remember that you're the person who ate all of the cheese.
Right.
And that's the only thing they know about you.
Right.
So you don't really own that brand narrative about yourself.
Right.
At least they can remember you as the architect who specifically builds corporate headquarters in Raleigh, North Carolina, who ate all these.
Exactly. Yeah.
And kind of the last thing that you really need to focus on, and this is, I would say, in priority order, But the last thing that I would focus on in building a basic brand is your key messages. What are the things that you just need to keep saying because it needs to be drilled in people's heads? So the way that I structure key messages, and there are tons of ways to do this, but this is, I think, the simplest way, is promise plus message plus proof. So the promise is how you want people to feel when they interact with you or your brand. I want people to feel relieved after they've talked to me. I want people to feel, oh, she knows what she's talking about, and I can just give it all to her and I can move on with my life.
Yeah.
The message is how I tell people that.
Right.
So I say, well, I handle everything from soups to nuts. I'm going to take everything off your plate. And the proof of that is that I am a full service. This is all an example. The proof of that is I'm a full service organization. You won't have to hire any other contractors because I handle it all. So here are the facts, is that I do this, 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 and this, and you won't need anyone else. So think about it for your organization. If you're working in an architecture firm, or if you're a builder or anywhere else in the industry, how do you want people to feel when they interact with you? Do you want people to feel like you are the experts and they don't really need to compare or do a second opinion or shop around because you are the number one expert in this field? Do you want people to feel really excited about whatever you're working with them on? And so think about, maybe make a list of 3 to 5 ways you want people to feel. And then that's one column. And the next column over, I would write out in 1 or 2 sentences how you say that. So let's say I want you all to feel really inspired by what I'm saying. So I could say, I want you to feel inspired. That's not very inspiring.
Right.
So I could say that as a next step, as part of all of these talks that you're viewing, I want you to make sure that you go home or that you sit at your desk or wherever you're working or sitting right now and write out 5 things that you're going to do immediately. And kind of the proof behind that is that, let's say every talk that I do, I require it. I'm going to say, I'm going to email you immediately after this, and I'm going to ask for your 5 things. So what are those things that you do in your business and personally that really guarantee that people will remember you as the one who was really inspiring, or the one who was really motivating, or the one who had so much expertise? So ways, I'd say for expertise especially, you see this on websites where people include all of the other organizations they've worked for. You have a section for your work. This is the proof that I know what I'm talking about and I've done it before. Yep. Send people there when they're learning about you. And so kind of just encapsulating these 4 steps, I'll give some examples in a minute, is your brand personality. Focus on that. You know, who are you as a person? Are you bubbly? Are you very serious? Is your organization known for being this like bright, friendly customer service, or is the organization that is no nonsense and going to get it done? Who's your target audience? And it's not everybody. It's very specifically. Don't worry about being niche, because being niche means a shorter funnel. It means you're targeting people that you know need you. Yep. So you've got to spend some time on that. Positioning. Why should people come to you over competitors? Figure that out and then say it nonstop in your key messaging, which is your promise. How do you want people to feel? The messaging, how are you getting that out of them? And then the proof. Where is the proof? Is it on your website? Is it on your business card that you've been in business since 1909? Put that all together and you've got control over your brand. And then just kind of lastly, some examples. There are like 2 examples I think of that aren't really in this industry, but the first one is Planet Fitness. Planet Fitness has it down. Planet Fitness, they're the gym that's not a gym, right? So people talk down about Planet Fitness not really being a gym, and it's not really for exercise, and they know. They know. That's the point. Their colors are bright purple. It's very, welcoming. There are no squat racks. There's no grunting policy. It's for people who don't want that. So anyone who complains about that, they're like, okay, great. Don't come to our gym. It's not for you.
Right.
And I think part of branding is that people can be worried about is
Mhm.
that who am I going to exclude if I get specific?
Right.
And to that, I always say you're going to exclude people who weren't going to come to you anyway,
Mhm.
because they have other options.
Right.
So think about the Planet Fitness model. The people who are upset that they have a no grunting policy or they don't have squat racks, they have other options. They
Right.
can easily go to a weightlifting gym, or they can go anywhere.
Yeah.
And Planet Fitness says, great, we're not targeting you.
Right.
And the same as, other gyms. I go to local gym, Vita Fitness, and the colors are like black and dark and everything's very serious.
Mhm.
And there's lots of yelling and grunting and all of these
Right.
things. None of them would be caught dead in a Planet Fitness. And that's great
Right.
because they have a Vita that they
Yeah,
can go to. Um,
exactly.
and the second example I would think of is Old Navy, because I'm an Old Navy brand loyalist. I'm kind of obsessed. They're,
I love it
um,
too.
right. They're part of kind of the Gap, they're part of the Gap brand architecture.
Right.
And their target audience is kind of lower to middle income people who just want to look good and feel good. So their messaging, it includes things like jeans that fit well. It's
Right.
just, it's not like jeans that make you look amazing or jeans that are so
Right.
clean or think you're expensive. Jeans that fit well.
Right.
Because we know that's all you're looking for. And we know
Yeah.
that's what you find. So come to
Yeah.
us.
Exactly.
Their ads feature families
Mhm.
that are just living their everyday lives. They're
Right.
eating dinner or they're hanging out at the park. It's not
Yeah.
people strutting the runway or wearing high fashion dresses. They know who their
Right.
audience is.
Right.
Are there any kind of brands that you can think of that you're a brand loyalist to?
Oh, goodness. The first thing that came to my mind was, I don't know why, but I was thinking coffee, and I realized that I'm not even like, when I get my coffee, I go to the shop down the street. I would go to them because of who they are as a company, as a warm, welcoming coffee shop who like talk to everyone that comes in. So that's who I know them as. So I would choose to go there instead of like a well-established, maybe more known
Mm-hmm.
like branch. So I guess that works because of who they are as a company, as a coffee house. That's why I choose to go to them to get my coffee in the morning.
Exactly. They're warm, they're welcoming, and that's important to you, so you go there. So I
Right.
would encourage everyone who's listening or watching to consider what's unique about you if you're thinking about your personal brand and what's unique about your organization that you definitely want people to remember. And if you don't take the time to plan all of this, you're not going to be memorable, really. Or you
Right.
might be remembered for the wrong things, which is totally within your control.
Right.
So I would just consider your brand personality, consider your target audience, what's unique about you relative to competitors, and what your key messages are, and then slap it on everything. Um,
Right.
that's why branding is super important. And just kind of to call back to branding versus marketing, when you're thinking about lumping them together, here's what I do to keep them separate. Branding is, who do I want to interact with the most? How do I want to be perceived, especially relative to competitors?
Right.
What are some important takeaways that customers should have? Should they feel like we got done on budget, on time, or should they feel like their money was well spent? Um, and then marketing is really, how will customers find me? Once I've identified who they are, how will they find me? What promotions should I run to get more people that I need in the door? How can I entice people to buy from me? These are
Yeah.
more marketing questions, and branding
Right.
should always come before that. You
Yeah.
can't really run an ad if you're not quite sure who to target it to.
Right.
So, and that's all I've got on branding.
That's perfect. What you were talking about not being worried about being too niche. I think that's great because that's exactly what MyProfessionalNet, what we're here for, is to hyper focus on someone that can help design professionals right now. So that I think that is perfect, and your examples were great. So I think that for our subscribers, this chat is going to be really beneficial, and I look forward to talking to you again. But in the meantime, if any of our listeners, might be interested in talking with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, so they can find me at aebrandconsulting.com. That's aebrandconsulting.com.
I'll
That's
put it up
me.
on the screen.
Thank you. That's me, Ansa Edim. And you can learn more about my business and what I think about branding. And there's a little bit of content in there. But most of all, that's the best way to contact me is to go to my website.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and I definitely look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much.